Welcome to the Supernatural Occurrence Studies Podcast.
So darn paranormal.
My name is Jason Knight, host of the show, and with me, as always, is...
Oscar Spector.
Producer extraordinaire and podcast co-host.
Mm-hmm.
Well, listeners, this is a Skype episode. Well, no, it's a Skype intro. Right, Oscar?
Yes. It's an introduction made entirely with Skype.
With Skype, right. It's just going to be the intro. We decided to do something different. We had to take a break. Our schedules were just jam-packed over the last week and a half. I couldn't find time to really research and script an episode, Oscar. So what we decided to do was replay our very first ever podcast episode.
Yes. And also I had so many technological problems on my end. It's been a very frustrating week.
Oh, that's right. Your technology stopped.
Yeah. Basically, technology hates me this week. It's hazing time for Oscar. And, yeah. So with that in mind, yes, we decided that it was too much of a time crunch to pull it off, at least with any kind of professional, research done and time involved and everything. We do it right, or we don't want to do it half-assed. Right?
Exactly. I think listeners expect a certain level of research and storytelling, and we just couldn't do it something like you said, half-assed.
Right, and while some may prefer that over what we're trying to do today, but I think what we're doing has a couple merits. First of all, for those diehard fans we've had that have been with us from the beginning or have gone through the entire archive. By the way, kudos. Most
kudos.
people are not you guys. And honestly, when we were talking about this idea, and you mentioned the first episode and all that, and I was like, I don't remember what the fuck we talked about. So if I forgot, and I was there, and I edited the thing, which means I heard it at least 2 more times, and I forgot. So maybe it's not a terrible idea to look back, kind of a flashback, also kind of a what do you call it? It's a big intro for us, and it kind of keeps us if you're wondering what our mission statement, it's all in there,
That's a good point.
Our mission statement is there, as Jerry Maguire might say, and and it's there for us to always keep in track and keep in mind, though, because sometimes we do, you and I may feel at times that we're not always living up to that mission statement, and we forget about it in the moment, but we ultimately pretty much address it at all times. So I'm proud of that. But it's there for other listeners who may have forgotten or don't know it at all, which is probably most likely the case. Right. So this will be a nice way to put this in there now, right?
Yeah, I think so. I think you hit the nail on the head. This is something we've never done before. We never re-released an episode in the past, and we just finished episode 108. So in 108 episodes, it's always been new. It's always been fresh. We never replayed an episode before. And, again, like you said it perfectly, going back to number 1 and really understanding, especially for new listeners, where this podcast came from, where we came from as hosts, why we have this strange sort of macabre interest that's always sort of been there throughout our lives. Where did all that come from? Well,
because we fucked up.
we made a right. We should have made a left somewhere, and we kind of explained that in this episode 1.
Yeah.
And there is differences with episode 1, so this is a good time to bring up the fact that about two and a half years ago, we went through a podcast rebranding. We used to be called the SOS-Radio Podcast, and our website was SOS-Radio. Well, we changed all that about 2.5 years ago. And so now, of course, we're the Supernatural Occurrence Studies Podcast and ChicagoGhostPodcast.com. But we just don't want you to get confused listening to our very first episode. What is this podcast? What is the SOS-Radio? It was just a brand change that we went through to try to reach a broader audience.
Yeah, and while, or it's funny, most people, I mean, most companies or, things that we do, like, when they change brands or they go through a change like that, normally they go with pithier names or a pithier version of the names. We went the opposite. We lengthened our title.
Yeah.
Instead of SOS-Radio, it was Supernatural Occurrence Studies Podcast.
That's right.
Which I do think, as much as I'm making fun of you, the fact that we're stronger now, it's actually, I think, more professional. It feels better rolling off the tongue. And also, I'm glad that you took out the radio, because radio seems old-fashioned.
You know what? That's a valid point. You're right.
This is technically a radio type, a radio format, but it's not radio. When people think of radio, if they don't think of XM radio, they think of some old box from, like, I don't know, the 30s and shit that people, huddled around with the family listening to some guy talking about the end of the world or something.
Right. World of the Worlds.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, good point.
Oh, God forbid those jockeys, those, what do you call them? The shock jocks from the 90s and shit?
Oh, the 90s shock jocks, yeah. Like when we did the Man Cow show. Man Cow and freaking turd, and they were wacky, and they were all bullshit off the air, or on the air, they were bullshit off the air, they were normal people. But yeah. No, I'm glad we went through the name change, but just didn't want listeners to be confused with what we were saying in that first podcast.
We also had a different intro.
We did have a different intro, yes. You put together a really cool intro for us.
And outro, I think. Those two.
Oh, right? The outro too. You're right.
Yeah,
I remember even before we recorded the first episode, I kind of gave you, I wanted to feel like we were trapped in a basement somewhere and something was going on outside, and all we had was the radio, and I think that's all I gave you as far as ideas I had for an intro music, and you put, listeners will hear what you put together, and I thought you nailed it, like right on the head.
Thank you.
I got that.
I thought of so many ideas and so many like movies and bunker, like post-apocalyptic worlds or something. And I was like, what would you hear? What are the remnants of the world? Like, I also thought of that White Album Beatles song, the Recall Revolution 9, because that feels the same.
Yeah.
I thought of so many options, and I kind of went along with that same.
Yeah, and we're going to leave that in. We're going to leave that into this episode.
Right.
Yeah. Good. I listened to a little bit of it today when I kind of sort of came up with this idea, and I was like, should we do it? And the audio quality, we were working with different equipment back then. The perfect sound is the dragon I'm always chasing. So you guys get to hear it. You get to hear where this thing came from, and hopefully how it's progressed to something better quality.
Definitely.
Yeah. Anything new over the last? We might as well do a catch up before we roll into this first episode.
Yeah, we should. This should still be as much of a regular intro as we do it, right?
Yeah.
Even though it's Skype, it still should be as regular as we can. Let's see. Well, I mentioned, and I don't know if you guys heard the disdain in my voice. I'm sure you did. The bitterness in my soul of this technological problem I've been having. It's been about. I'll really try to pare it down, because I told you the entire story yesterday.
Oh, yes.
So I won't repeat the entire story to you guys either the same way, but I'll say it as pithy or as I can. So on Wednesday, I got my new, much anticipated, because I love the camera a lot, and obviously technology is great, gadgets are cool. I got my new iPhone 11 Pro Max, which is a long title. Right. Got it on Wednesday, brand new, 256 gigabytes. Had to get it from the mail because they don't have them at stores, which is weird. They only have like a smaller version of it. I mean, fuck that. So I got it, and for about 6 hours, it was working fine on Wednesday, last Wednesday, and working great. And then they shut off on me around 2 a.m, completely blacked out.
Just bricked.
And it just blacked out. It just turned off by itself, and it wouldn't start. I'm like, okay. So I tried, the many things that people know and do, trying to restart the phone, restore it, connect it to the computer, try to see if there's an update you can restore it with, whatever it is. And none of it was working. And, one thing led to another. When it actually went online for me, found extra hacks people find, nothing. And then The next day, Lexi went through all the arduous, horrific stuff with Apple Care or whatever, like talking to them, and they didn't know what the fuck was wrong with it. And I took it to T-Mobile, and they're like, the next day after that, and they're like, I don't have a computer. We don't know how to do this. I'm like, oh, you have to go to Apple. I'm like, okay. So I went to Apple the next day after that because I had to work that day, and everything's closed by the time I'm out of work.
Yeah.
And went there before work the next day after that, and they're like, oh, yeah, it's broken, and this is where it's broken. And like here, it's like one little piece that's broken. They try to show me, and I'm like, it looks exactly the same, but okay. And they're like, yeah, it's broken. It doesn't work. You have to get it replaced. And they're like, I would love to replace it for you, but you didn't buy it through us. You bought it through T-Mobile, and you have to go through them. I'm like, fuck. And they're like, we can fix it for you, but it'll cost. And I'm like, I just spent over $500 on this phone as like a money down. And I'm not paying an extra $100 to get this one fixed, right? So I went to T-Mobile, talked to them, and they're like, yeah, and they do it in the worst way ever, Jay. They told me the only way to do this is I have to send this phone back. I already have it. I'm looking at the box right now with the shipping label. I printed it out and everything. And they have to send it back. Once they scan it to verify that I'm returning it, and then I returned it in like whatever with the best, product, whatever, they'll give me a refund. And with that refund, I can buy it again.
Oh, my God.
So I have to send this. I don't know how long all this will take because I still haven't sent it out.
Dude, your story gave me stress. I don't know how you're handling this.
Yeah. Well, the lady was like saying, I'm so sorry. They're all being so nice, but ultimately, no help either way. And they're like, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry that happened to you. That's sorry you just had it for one day. And like, yeah, I know. I was there. And I'm just being like funny but sarcastically bitter,
Yeah.
And I told the T-Mobile salesman, like, oh, fuck Christ, out loud. And I left. Like
Stormed out. Whoa.
Yeah, stormed out. Anyway, and she's being so nice about it, so it's hard to yell at her, but still, whatever. And she was saying, like, the only way you could get it now, or like sooner, like in 2 days, as opposed to waiting until they get it back and get a refund and all that, is if I bought it again now. And I'm like, I don't have spare $585 on me. I just spent it buying this phone. How much money? Like, I'm not going to just spend it on the, for whenever this refund comes in, which I don't know when. I assume it's soon, or does it take extra days? Or I don't know what's going on. So I didn't want to roll the dice. I did have the money, but I didn't want to roll the dice and then not have much of money, for groceries or living or whatever. So, so now I'm waiting for it. I'm going to have to wait until they give me the refund, and then I can buy this damn phone again.
And of course, without your iPhone, your brand new, beautiful Apple Watch 5 is pretty much useless.
Yes. Do they know? Our listeners know about my Apple Watch?
I don't think so.
Did we mention it?
I don't think remember. We mentioned it.
Yeah, my brother Rob got me Apple Watch Series 5 for my birthday or Christmas because they're like a week apart.
Right.
So he gave it to me. It was super cool. I've been loving it. And obviously, ever since this whole fiasco with the phone, which started with my old phone, breaking down and not being able to charge, so I had to like hurriedly buy this new one. I can't even use my old one. So like I am phoneless in Seattle, and I'm losing like my Lexi's iPad to like function a little here and there, but I can't make phone calls. I don't know what I'm getting. I haven't gotten a text or a phone or anything like that.
Yeah, it was difficult for us to communicate today.
It was, it's been fun.
Oh God, you're in a technological void. That's a horrible place to be nowadays.
Well, it's just frustrating that things that should work and you think they'd be like much faster about this kind of thing is not. And it's just one frustration after another, like in a snowball effect.
Yeah.
I know I shouldn't be that pissed. It's not that big a deal. Ultimately, I understand it logically, but emotionally, I'm pissed off.
Absolutely. Well, should we tell the listeners why you needed a phone in the first place?
What do you mean?
What happened to your last phone?
Oh yeah. You mean because I broke it?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's always been.
Right after.
No.
Right after I text you in the morning, woke you up, you slammed your phone around.
Yeah. No, it was just like one. Yeah. So that happened because my half broken vape. If you hold it wrong or you like slam it too hard or like put it down too hard or whatever, not slam it, just put it down too hard. the batteries will just fling out, like they're jumping out of it, and like 2 batteries roll under the bed, and I just woken up. I'm so angry, but I have to get it because what am I going to do? Not get it? So I go in there to retrieve it, and then that leads to like me hitting a table, and something falls, and I get angry and I throw the phone. And I know that's all on me. I get that. I am not a good morning person. I completely, whatever.
Weren't you getting hammered with calls and text messages too?
Yeah, other texts. Yeah, my brother was texting. Lexi, I'm sure was. I don't know. A bunch of people were. I'm like, why are you guys annoying me right now?
So you broke your phone.
I broke my phone. Yeah.
It's not funny, but it is funny.
No, it's funny. No, it's clearly a problem I have, and I'm totally acknowledging it. I'm self-aware about it.
Yeah.
But that still shouldn't mean that the brand new phone I bought should not work.
No, definitely.
Yeah.
Well, see, we're not as advanced as we think we are with the technology.
No, yeah. I'm so behind on podcasts. Oh my God, I have no idea what's going on anymore. I had to download my audiobooks on the iPad, Lexi's iPad. Thank God she's letting me use it.
Wow.
And I've been doing that, so at least that's good.
Well, yeah. I pray you get your phone quickly and everything gets back to normal, and we could meet again and record again.
Yeah, I also got my new vape today, so not that old vape I told you that broke. It's
good.
Fuck that up the ass. Don't worry about that. Keep the shit phone or vape me. And it's been fun.
Wow.
It's getting there. I'm getting there.
Well, good.
Sorry, I told you about the Apple Watch or the Apple TV, right?
Apple TV, no.
So my Apple TV, the Apple TV remote hasn't worked in years because I have the first one. So this is an old one, an old Apple TV, and I've been using my phone to use it as a remote.
Oh, no. So now without the phone.
Right, and then my Apple Watch won't work without for some reason it doesn't work. I can't access the remote on there without the phone, like mirroring it or something.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe there's a way. I don't know. But yeah. So I can't. My Apple Watch was playing this show, and I had to watch the whole thing. I couldn't stop it.
We're so reliant on our technology,
Yeah, clearly. Yeah, clearly.
Wow.
Yeah, very much so.
Well,
sorry.
No, it's a great story, and I'm sure there's people out there who can relate. My week wasn't that tragic, just super busy.
Yeah.
That's why I couldn't really. I needed a break. I couldn't research and script something, but I did get some cool gifts today. Yeah, new autographs for the podcast office.
Nice.
Minister Sal got me this really cool. It looks like the front page of a newspaper, and I believe it's the Santa Clara newspaper. And if listeners out there might know Santa Clara and an old school kind of horror movie, on this newspaper looking thing, it's describing the vampiric attacks that are happening in Santa Clara, and it's all about the Lost Boys. And on that image, there's a picture of the 4 Lost Boys, and the Frog Brothers are on there. Corey Haim, Corey Feldman are on there, are on the poster. And by Kiefer Sutherland's picture, Kiefer signed it. And the other, Jason Patrick, he played the older brother, Michael. Did you remember him?
I know Jason Patrick.
Yeah, so he played Michael. He was the older brother that the Lost Boys were trying to convert over to their side.
Yeah, I don't remember. It's funny because I don't remember him in that movie. I've seen the movie, of course. I know Kiefer Sutherland from tons of crazy movies he's been in, and 24.
Yeah.
But and then Jason Patrick, he was mainly I would say for T2-1000, right? That's him, right?
I don't know what else he's done, but on
this Terminator 2, right? That's the big one.
No.
Jason Patrick. Am I confusing it? Jason Patrick is not the same.
I think you're confusing it. Yeah. But Jason Patrick signed this poster as well. So I got Kiefer Sutherland's and Jason Patric's, the two main characters of Lost Boys. I now have their autographs. And he also got me a really awesome picture of Pinhead holding the lament configuration, holding the box, the puzzle box. And it's signed by Doug Bradley, and it says, "I am the way." So I was really excited about those autographs.
Yeah, I've always wanted a very intricate, professional, sweet, like awesomely made, the Hellraiser box, whatever it's called.
Oh yeah, the lament configuration. Yeah.
Yeah, I really would love that. As like like a toy, like a thing to just have, like not a paperweight, just like a very cool design.
Yeah, I think you've mentioned that before, and they're out there. No, it's cool, but they're out there. But you're gonna spend a lot of money. Well, see, I like screen use stuff that were actually used in movies. Those boxes are out there. They're floating around out there, but they're incredibly expensive. Yeah, I mean,
ideally, I would like for it to like move and do the three pieces that it moves into. That'd be cool. But I would just like a cool one, because I see them online sometimes. Like, I didn't super look into it, but they look pretty shoddy, and I'm like, no, I want something good.
Yeah, yeah.
That's a really cool idea for a movie. That's a really cool movie prop or object.
Absolutely. Whatever. Iconic. I mean, iconic.
Yeah, very iconic. Quite, yeah. At least for me.
And speaking of movies, I finally saw Dr. Sleep.
Oh, wow. Hey, look at that. What'd you think?
Loved it.
Oh, you did? I'm glad.
I really did. I enjoyed from opening sequence when they were playing the old Shining music all the way through to the end. I enjoyed it. Loved it.
Yeah. And without spoiling it, I just want to comment on the fact that, the movie is a little darker than the book.
Yeah. There was one time I had to look away. It was really bad.
And the baseball boy scene was pretty horrific.
That's the one I'm talking about.
Yeah, pretty horrific. I mean, they didn't show it, the wounds or anything, but that's enough. They showed enough. That was crazy.
They showed quite enough. Yes, that's the one I had to look away at. But I mean, let's do a spoiler alert, I guess. Should we do spoiler alert?
Well, I just said baseball boy. I mean, it's not enough to.
No. But I want to talk about a couple other things. So maybe we'll say going forward, spoiler alert.
Okay, cool.
All right, there we go. Said, like when he returned to the Overlook.
Yeah.
And he's talking to his father. He saw the door that Jack Torrance busted in with an axe, and he put his face through it just like his father did. He was wearing. I should look this up. I'm sitting in front of a computer, but when Ewan McGregor was sitting at the bar, or pretty much when he's in the Overlook, I swear to God, it's the same clothes his father wore. It has to be. It looked just like the same outfit.
I think it is pretty close. Yeah, I think so too. What I meant by darker, though, I meant like, in the book, Danny survives, and so does the girl's father survives, and the best friend survives. In this movie, they all die.
Dead, gone,
all dead. Like they die. Some of them surprising, like Snakebite Andy's, like kill yourself. Like whoa.
Yeah, I did not see that coming.
Yeah, I did not see that coming. That was really cool. I also like how the sequel is from the movie, and the book is only a sequel from the other book. So like the Overlook is still standing in the movie, and that's kind of cool.
Yes,
that was really cool. Yeah.
Yeah, and did you notice when Ewan McGregor, it's like the first AA meeting, and the guy who presides over the AA meeting, comes up to Ewan McGregor at the end, shakes his hand, is like, hey, anytime you want to come back, you're more than welcome. Ewan McGregor's like, yeah, I'll be back. And then he goes and he tells the guy something really, hey, you forgot your watch. Here's where you'll find it.
Yeah, right,
In the very next scene, that guy, he winds up, he's a doctor, right, who's presiding over this AA group. They're sitting in the doctor's office. Did you notice that office, it's the same fucking office, the same setup as it was.
As the one in The Shining?
Yes, the one in The Shining, as Jack Nicholson was being interviewed for the job at.
Yeah, in the interview. Yes, I know. I knew that too.
Dude, Katie's like, what are you talking? Because I was like freaking out, and she's like, what's wrong? I'm like, it's the same thing. It's the exact same thing.
I didn't. It's funny that I'm glad you noticed it. I didn't notice it in theaters. I was told after, and I was like, oh yeah, I can totally see that. That makes sense.
Yes, dude. Oh man, it was so cool. And then the other thing I thought about. So yeah, great movie, loved it. Rose the Hat, terrible.
Yeah.
I mean, just terrible, but she was hotter than hell. Fantastic, great movie.
Yeah, totally.
But so. Oh, no, one more thing about the movie. Sorry. Maybe we could edit around this. I don't know. But did you notice Dick Halloran used the word ka? Dick Halloran's the black guy?
Yeah. When?
Yeah. It was when he was convincing Ewan McGregor to go and help Abra. He's like, we all have ka. Or I forgot his exact sentence, but it was all about ka. And, of course, ka, gunslinger. Right,
oh, yeah,
Dark Tower series. I was like, oh my god, and Katie's like, what's wrong with you? I'm like, shut up. No, I didn't say that. But yeah, he's like, he threw Ka in there. I thought that was awesome, which brings me to the next point. So then Carrie from the movie from, 79?
80, I think.
Was it 80? Carrie had The Shining. I never put two and two together, like with Shining and Carrie. But yeah, she definitely had The Shining.
She had like a primal version of it because she was never like told that, about this gift or how it works or like how to like manage it.
Yeah,
it was all like
she didn't have a Dick Halloran.
No, it was all like impulse and like rage and emotional. Like the power was based solely on her state of mind, So it looked different, but it was still the same. It was Shining.
It was The Shining. Yeah, how cool is that?
Yeah. That's very cool. No, yeah, I mean, a lot of this stuff connects that way in, like, little ways and some of them not so little ways, like big ways. Did you watch the Gunslinger movie?
Yeah, I mean...
Yeah, that was not good. It was not good. No, I mean, we can all agree it's not good. I mean, it has some cool parts in it, but, like, I really want that. That'd be a great show. They should just make that into a show.
I thought I heard they are going to make a Dark Tower series.
They better, man, because it's such a good idea for a show. When I read through the books, I was like, man, I can see like this being a good chapter break in an episode or something, like, or whatever, and I can see it in my mind, and I want it so bad. And of course, the more I do that, the less satisfied I'll be with the real show. But I won't be. I can manage my expectations. But yeah, anyway, that'd be cool.
Oh, yeah, I would definitely watch it. The other Stephen King adaptation we're watching right now is The Outsider on HBO with Jason Bateman.
I haven't seen that yet.
Dude,
I've been meaning to get into that.
Incredible. It's really fucking good, man.
Well, part of the reason I can't see it is because, my Apple TV has HBO.
Oh, and you can't control your Apple TV.
Nope, haven't looked at it.
Because your Apple Watch isn't working because your iPhone is broken.
Yep.
It's a domino effect.
It is. I didn't know how much I relied on it.
It's funny.
But, man, I really want to see it. It sounds badass. I definitely, because they always do like, last year they opened with True Detective for the new year, and The Outsiders are like their True Detective this year. Like something hardcore, gritty, possibly scary or thriller,
Yeah, it's great. It's great.
Definitely. Can't wait.
Is True Detective coming back?
Oh, yeah, I'm sure they're going to make more. It's just that they don't want to, they probably skip a year,
Oh, so nothing's been announced or anything? Yeah,
the days of TV being a yearly machine where every year a new season, like spring, and that whole thing is archaic now, like take as long as you need. Some shows take longer, some shows take shorter,
Yeah.
Some of them are right on a schedule, they plan it in advance enough, or maybe they're not doing a great job, but they tell the writers, hey, come up with something by next year, But True Detective, I think since a lot of it's like a one-man show with the writer, like not a one-man show, but he's like really the spearhead. Like he just whenever he's done, that's when he makes it, it's not like a rush. That's why that one show about the robots, about AI, what's it called? The HBO show.
Mr. Robot?
No, not Mr. Robot.
Sorry.
About the robots.
Oh,
Westworld.
Westworld, yeah.
Westworld. Yeah, Westworld took a year off last year, right? So they're coming back this year. So.
Yeah, that was one I never got into. I tried so many times, and I would just fall asleep every time.
Oh, really?
Every
Man,
time.
The first season is so good. First season is so good. I love it a lot. Second season, not as good. It has some problems, but I think they're going to really fix it and come back strong this year. I hope. It looks like they will. But it's really, really crazy, really inventive sci-fi.
Awesome. Yeah, maybe one day I'll check it out.
Yeah, okay. If it's not for you, don't worry about it. Plenty of stuff out there for you, Jay.
Right. Wow, this is turning into a review show.
Well, yeah. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
You got me talking about TV shows, so I'm not going to stop.
Right. Well, see, we're giving the listeners something different with this episode 1. You know what I mean? We're giving them a nice little crazy intro.
Yeah, I guess so.
It's different. It's different.
Yeah, and I don't think the first episode was very long.
Oh, I think it was really long.
Really? Was it really?
I think so.
I don't remember.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. I'm sorry.
I should go back and listen to this myself because, I forgot a lot about it. I remember we recorded this in your garage. Obviously,
really?
Yes, it was in your garage. 0 soundproofing, obviously. Old equipment, like I said. I think we got pretty buzzed, if I remember. Because Joe brought a bunch of Anti-Hero, which is one of my favorite beers. I think we got pretty buzzed, or at least a couple of us did. Me and Joe, probably.
Yeah, probably.
Good. But it'll be good to hear their voices again. It's been a long time.
Yeah, it's been a minute.
So, I don't know. Anything else you want to talk about before we roll into this replay of our very first episode ever?
No, I'm good. I think we should just start it and forgive us for whatever we said that's stupid now.
I know. Well, you know what? This is a little inside baseball. I remember being so afraid to get on that mic for the very first time. I don't know what it was. I was like petrified.
I'm sure you were. I don't remember. I mean, that wasn't my first show, but
no. By that time, you were an old pro already, because you had been running your own podcast for a year or 2 before we.
Yeah, I think I was still doing the old show then, because I remember we talked about it a couple times.
Right.
On the
Right. Yeah, so you were already an old pro. I was terrified. And then I remember going to post this first episode. I was scared then, too, that no one would like it. It would never take off. Who would listen to this, And obviously I was wrong. But I just remember being very scared about that first episode.
Yeah. Yeah, but now you're not scared anymore.
No. I'm now the old pro.
Yeah.
But all right, listeners, Chicago Ghost Podcast, of course, is our website, chicagoghostpodcast.com. Find us on Patreon if you like what we do and you want us to do more. You want to help Oscar get a new iPhone 11 XYZ. Join our Patreon at patreon.com/Supernatural Occurrence Studies Podcast. And with that, Oscar, let's roll this first episode and hear this train wreck.
Let's do it.
I'll send an SOS to the world. The blood of the Messiah's flowing.
Welcome, everyone. My name is Jason Knight. I'm the president and founder of Chicago's own Supernatural Occurrence Studies and host of the SOS-Radio.com podcast, all paranormal, all the time. Today I'm joined by my brothers in arms, my fellow SOSers and co-hosts, Dave Black, SOS co-founder, theorist, and medium. Dave, say hello.
Hello.
How are you? That? You're a medium too?
I am. Medium.
We're here, we'll get to him in a moment. We're here with our producer extraordinaire, Oscar Spector.
Oh, producer. Nice. I love that credit. And I guess you're a podcast editor.
There you go.
Yeah.
And Mr. Joe Erie, medium, theorist, musician, and hell of a good guy.
Hello.
Guys, since this is our very first episode. This is our alpha, our genesis.
Yeah,
the first episode of SOS-Radio.com podcast.
I hope you don't mean like Terminator Genesis, because that wasn't very good.
No, that wasn't
Genesis? No, that wasn't good at all.
But since this is our first podcast, I think it would be proper to introduce ourselves to the world. Who we are, where we come from, why we do what we do here at Chicago's own Supernatural Occurrence Studies and SOS-Radio.com podcast. And what Supernatural Occurrence Studies is about and what this podcast is going to be about.
This is my first day here. Literally, this is our first day.
This is our very first show. That's what I said.
We can say that as an excuse now. If we screw this up,
So I know. I think it's appropriate to get out there why this exists, who we are.
We started this. It was like 97, right? It was like tail end of 97.
Yeah, we're going on almost 20 years.
Yeah, and I remember it. I remember it being like it was a time in my life where I was just kind of like coming into my own and figuring out what I wanted to do. I had just started doing stand-up comedy.
I think it was Black, by the way, guys.
It was
that's
literally, I think,
talking.
this same week that I started stand-up comedy that I started doing SOS.
Wow.
It was pretty close. Like it was definitely in the same month, because I think it was
a crazy week.
Our first night out at Robinson Woods, I think I want to say it was December of 97.
Yeah, it was right around there. You're right.
Yeah, it was like December 3rd or 4th or something like that. I know I still have the photograph somewhere with dates on them.
Well, the photograph they could see at SOS-Radio.com in the photos video section. That very first photograph from Robinson Woods, which is going to be a topic of our next podcast, Robinson Woods Indian Burial Ground on the northwest side of Chicago. That photo's up there, the photo that started it all, so people can go and check that out. But we'll get around to...
our base of operations is in Chicago.
It is Chicago, but...
Yeah, I think we've established Chicago is the location
right.
that SOS operates out of.
Just want to make sure.
Chicago's very own Chicago SOS is from Chicago, in Chicago, we're in Chicago.
In the Chicago tribe,
Hey,
yes.
we're in Chicago.
That's right.
Italian beef.
But
Chicago.
To introduce ourselves to the world, I'd like to kick it off. As the host of the show, as the fearless leader into the unknown, I, Jason Knight, would like to kick it off. Is that all right with you guys?
No. I mean, yes. Go ahead.
I guess.
Hi, I'm Jason Knight. I like long walks on the beach, the color red. No, I'm just kidding. I've been interested in ghosts and spooky stuff, scary stuff, since I was a kid. The house I grew up in on the northwest side of Chicago, it was a 1924 post-World War II home. These heroes were coming home from World War I, wanting to start families. They needed homes. And Chicago and cities like Chicago, the bungalow belt, they call it, were popular destinations. And my house was one of those prefab homes that they put up for the soldiers returning home from World War I. So it was built in 1924. And ever since I was a kid, I remember just crazy stuff happening around my house.
I remember that
I grew
house
up
being,
with this stuff.
Remember that house being very lumpy.
It was a prefab home. It was crooked, had a dirt crawl space.
It's hard to imagine lumpy with a house.
The back porch was falling off the house, but you know what? That was my castle.
Description.
That was my castle. That's where I grew up.
I'll just take your
northwest side of Chicago, and I remember growing up hearing voices in the house, seeing shadows walk through the hallway, orbs of light moving around the house, things moving on their own, appliances starting on their own. So from a very young age, I was kind of inducted into this kind of ghostly world, and I wasn't the only one who saw this stuff. You know, families seen it, friends seen it. So right from the get-go, I was born into this paranormal kind of world, and growing up, my mom did a lot of paranormal research herself. She was a Girl Scout leader, and she would take her Girl Scout troop on the Boy Scouts Bigfoot Trail, which happened to run directly parallel to the infamous Bachelor's Grove Cemetery on the far south side of Chicago. And she heard the lore and the legends of Bachelor's Grove, conducted her own research there, was one of the only ones that I know to actually see the famous disappearing house. So as I was growing up in this haunted house, my mom would also tell me stories of her own investigations at Bachelor's Grove. So I was inducted into this world from a very young age. Come high school, when I started growing into my own. Went to a Catholic high school. Unfortunately, that left more questions than answers. So I remember starting to play with the Ouija board at kind of an early freshman, sophomore year time frame.
That's so bad for my family.
It is, yeah. And we would sit after school, me and a couple guys would sit in the hallways and play with the Ouija board. It was a Catholic high school, as I said. I remember the brothers would come out and yell at us. What the hell are you doing? What are you thinking?
Yeah, I would say the same thing.
So,
at 5 years old.
And we were lectured time and time again about why we shouldn't do the Ouija board, and we'll cover those stories in future podcasts. So it continued on through high school. We kind of had this spooky interest. And then after high school, we started up, me and a fellow paranormal enthusiast started up a group called FPI, Freelance Paranormal Investigators.
FPI.
Pretty interesting, pretty hardcore name.
Yeah.
FPI, the Freelance Paranormal Investigators. And we did a few little investigations here and there, mostly just did a lot of research, a lot of reading, a lot of filling our head with knowledge. But unfortunately, the partner I had in FPI wound up screwing me pretty hard. Stole a bunch of pictures from me, for example, had them published in a book without permission, had to sue an author of a book. It was this whole big thing. So I kind of got out of it.
I remember a little bit of what that is. Yeah.
The Chicago Haunts, the revised edition, you could still buy it today. You'll see they had to, as a result of the lawsuit, they had to re-release the book with proper credit going to myself and, as a matter of fact, Dave Black here. So it wasn't a really good experience. So after FPI sort of dissolved, I went on the search, and I happened to bump into Dave Black. And in Dave Black, I found a kindred spirit. He was, much like myself, a thinker, into the paranormal. And when we came together, that's really when the magic happened. Not only were we like-minded, but we also soon discovered that Dave he does possess mediumship abilities. And I'll vouch for him to the death. It is true. I'll let him explain that. I'm not going to take his thunder, but he does possess mediumship abilities, and because of him and our combined efforts, we wound up discovering over 80 haunted locations in and around the Chicagoland area, mostly just based on his...
I would say it's probably over 100.
By now, yeah. Let's backtrack for a moment. Now, from the time of inception to now, we're talking almost 20 years we've been in this quote-unquote business, doing paranormal research. So when it came together with Dave, it all just started to click. We started discovering all these haunted locations, never before heard of, up to almost, like Dave said, almost probably 100 now in 2015. Because of what we were finding, we launched the popular Supernatural research tours, where we would take people to these haunted locations, and they would gather their own evidence of the paranormal. You could see some of their photos on SOS-Radio.com website, some tour result pictures. We also launched the popular Supernatural lecture and slideshow presentation series, dedicated to what we found. We give presentations and talk about these haunted locations and display our photographs, and we really gathered a cult following. Just to add fuel to the fire, we met guys just like yourself, Oscar, or Joe Erie, who also displays mediumship abilities. Although I think, looking back at it, Dave's ability seems to be more innate, something he's kind of born with, where Joe, it seems, for him, it's almost like a muscle. He's got to work it, and it becomes stronger.
It's somewhat like that for me, too. Like, if I let it sit fallow for a while, I kind of lose it. And then I don't really like when I'm home alone. I live in a house that was built in 1908. My landlord's sister died in the place that I live. So when I don't like to kind of read about weird stories. I don't like to, because as soon as I start thinking about it, it kind of opens up my mind, and I've on several occasions I've kind of freaked myself out in my own house, and then felt like, oh great.
Yeah,
and now something's here with me.
That leads to my very next point here. We were doing so well as an organization, as Chicago's own Supernatural Occurrence Studies, SOS. We were featured in every form of media, television, newspaper, radio, print. We had a cult following. But then, I had to stop. And some people in this very room, some of my brothers, don't realize, what we were going through, what I was going through.
We were nomads.
Yeah, well. Joe knows. But I don't know where I picked it up. But I picked up an attachment somewhere. And it's still with me today. I don't know if it came from the days of the Ouija board in high school. I don't know if it came from a location that we investigated.
Can you describe what an attachment is, just for those listeners who may not know what the some of those words that we use as
it is an energy. I can't say it's a ghost. I can't say it's a spirit, a demon. I don't know what. But it is an energy that is attached to you, that follows you no matter where you are, what you do, where you go. About 10 years ago, for a little over a decade, I've had this attachment. And it makes itself known whenever I get involved in the paranormal. So a lot of people ask, my point is, a lot of people ask, why did SOS quit? If we were doing so well, if we were riding such a high, why did we quit? Well, I had to quit because of this attachment. And I've dubbed him Mr. Lincoln. I know it sounds stupid, it sounds silly, but he appears to me when I'm in the thick of paranormal research. This entity appears to me. And he's always at the peripheral vision, out of corner of my eye. Only once in my life did I catch him full on, just straight in my vision, and I'll tell that story another time. But he plagues me. I see him. I catch him. If I stop researching the paranormal, those appearances kind of wane until they almost go away. So I had to stop. It was getting too much. I can't sleep. I haven't been able to sleep for the past 10-plus years. I've gone through every type of physical examination.
You do look terrible.
You do. I said ragged. I was trying to go easy, but
no, awful.
He said terrible. Now that he said it,
absolutely.
Which leads me to the question, Joe: do you ever age? Do you age?
You look the same as I first met you,
We've all aged. We've all grown into ourselves in our careers and lost hair, gained weight. But Joe still looks fantastic.
Yeah, I was definitely going to get into this when I give a little description about myself and what I do.
We'll come back to you. But honestly, Joe's the only one who looks fantastic. But anyway,
thank you.
So I did. I had to quit.
He's sitting on you.
It started affecting my health. And flash forward to when I had children, it started affecting my kid, my daughter. About 5 years ago, she came to me one day and said, Daddy, there's a tall man watching me in my bedroom. And to me, that signified this Mr. Lincoln. It's personal now.
Now it's personal?
It is. It affects my daughter. As a matter of fact, the last time she's seen this thing was in late August. It was a Saturday morning around 2 or 3 in the morning. I was catching up on Game of Thrones, which is fantastic, by the way. And it was the episode of The Red Wedding.
Oh, of course. And why not?
Right when the episode ended, my daughter, she came up in hysterics from the basement, and she was just in complete hysterics, having a little mini breakdown. And she said to me that there was a skinny man sitting on her bed, and then he moved to her shoulder. And could Daddy make it go away? I knew right then and there that something had to be done. The research I've done on this thing, you could look up Hat Man. Just Google Hat Man. I never knew there was such a thing. But as I was trying to describe this entity to my web designers who put together an animated storyboard for me, when I was trying to describe this entity to give them a picture of what this is so they could draw it into the storyboard, I came across the Hat Man. And I am not the only person who sees these entities. And they're supposedly watchers.
And Jay, I actually saw the Hat Man at your house. You remember?
I do.
In the kitchen.
Yes. So
it's interesting that a lot of image, like, it seems like there's like 10 to 15 entities that people see, and they always seem similar. I a few months ago, or maybe even a year ago or so, there was a guy I'm friends with on Facebook. He's a comedian from Wisconsin. And he said, he's like, I don't know if I'm crazy, but I just saw 2 glowing kangaroos jump across the road in front of me on whatever road he was driving down.
Really?
And that immediately resonated with me because...
Phantom Panthers.
Not just that, but I've heard of the kangaroos specifically before. There's, especially from the Midwest, there's all these... And there used to be a Paleolithic era giant kangaroo that lived in North America, and people have actually seen, they've seen described the same way he did. It's kind of like a glowing hazy green outline on it, and it looks like an animal with that has like neon lights behind it or whatever. Wow. And that immediately, I immediately Googled it and found a dozen articles on it and sent them all to him and stuff. And this is somebody that had no knowledge of it prior. So when you hear things like that, you gotta like be like, oh, there's got to be something to it if all these different people are seeing and experiencing the same thing, and they had no prior knowledge of it. There's got to be something behind it.
Like for an example, I didn't know anything of it. We were standing in the kitchen. All of a sudden, I saw that thing behind you. And all of a sudden, it was gone. I described it to a T.
Yes, you did. This is the house. This is that 1924 post-World War I Joe's talking about.
You know, big hat.
That is my attachment. Yes, that is the thing that I see. And my daughter
it was like a longer, like almost like 1940-ish coat, you know, and it was weird. But then, and you kind of you froze. I didn't know anything, and you told your mom, and you guys both looked and were like, "Whoa."
Yeah, that's what it is. And
I just want to say right now, it's very comfortable doing this here in this creepy garage with a bunch of murder tools all around us.
Yes.
There's like 3 murder tools.
Yeah. So there's that pickaxe right there.
I do just
garden shears over there.
I want to wrap up. I want to wrap up my bio.
Ball bearings.
With this. Once I started doing my research, these things tend to be the collective agreement is it's a watcher, or they are watchers. From where, watching what, no one knows. But the one thing they do not like is to be known, to be recognized. So as soon as my daughter came up in late August and told me about the skinny man sitting on her shoulder and on her bed, that's when I knew that something had to be done to throw light onto these things. That's when I kind of had the idea for SOS-Radio.com podcast.
And why we're here.
I hope to, and this is going to be my underlying theme for me personally throughout this entire podcasting experience, is to try to expose these things, because I think they can do damage. I think they have done damage to me physically, through just emotional draining, no sleep equals temper equals friction. Friction in the house equals
Game of Thrones,
bad things.
Really weird. You have a temper? I never noticed.
Yeah.
Me either.
Right.
Can you show it to me?
But so that's what this is about. You know, at the end of the day, I'm from Chicago. We're all from Chicago. I don't scare easily.
Oh, wait, we're in Chicago right now?
I see that as...
Are you sure? Chicago, right?
I see this as a... It's
Wait,
a battle.
is SOS based in Chicago?
Chicago's own Supernatural Occurrence Studies is based in Chicago, although I'm not saying that's where we report from. We report from an undisclosed location in the Midwest area.
Chicago.
Before I pass it off to my co-host and co-founder Dave Black, I just want to mention that at any time our listeners could get a hold of us. It's really easy, right off the SOS-Radio.com website. Contact us link.
And we'll mention this at the end of the show.
Yeah, email us submissions with an S, submissions.
Send Jay pictures of anything
at SOS-Radio.com.
And I mean anything.
Submissions at SOS-Radio.com. Or you could call us 872-5290-SOS. That's 872-529-0767. If you ever have any show...
area code?
That is a Chicago area code.
Which 872 is an area code?
I didn't believe him. I still don't believe him, really.
Look it up. It is Chicago. It is. If you are local, to the Midwest,
did they just make that up?
This is not a long distance call for you. 872-529-0767 SOS.
That's Sweden. I think that's Sweden.
It is a Chicago area code.
Is there a 01 in front of that?
So one thing our listeners need to know is that my co-host and partner here, Dave Black, is a professional comedian who has traveled the entire country and
18 states, not the entire country.
Helped launch the career of some pretty big names in comedy. But I want to pass this over to Dave because as our theorist, Dave really did come up with some really intelligent theories that can be found on our website.
And which are rare for him to come up with.
No, it's actually pretty normal.
Yeah, it's usually just dumb
You would
nonsense.
think he's
baloney.
You would think he's a bumbling idiot. But I mean, he actually is really intelligent, really funny, and he does lend a lot to this organization. So I just want to toss it off to him now. Dave?
Here's the torch. Don't break it.
So, me and Jay, we met in, 95?
1995.
We were working at, what was that place called?
Living Materials Center.
Living Materials Center.
Skokie, Illinois.
It was this weird old guy that he basically wholesaled pets and stuff
and Drosophila flies
to pet stores. And
he was big into the Drosophila. Remember that?
And there was all sorts of microorganisms and cultures and stuff that he sold. Anyway, the guy was a nutball, but that's where I met Jay at. And when I first met him, he had these stupid dreadlocks in his hair because he just came back from Jamaica. And I'm like, what is this doofus? And then we became really good friends, and I would come and hang out at Jay's house late at night. And one night in December of 1997, we were sitting around your kitchen table talking about the paranormal, and I had always been interested, and I've always had, like, it was... I'm not going to say I was psychic, but it was, everyone thinks of somebody and you bump into them or they call on the phone or
Yeah, Dave, explain that mediumship thing, because I think there's a preconceived notion that comes with the word medium that you are not.
And also, sinister movies kind of screw that up a little bit for you.
Mm-hmm. I didn't see those because I'm not 14.
But no, I think it really there should be a you don't talk to dead people, correct?
No.
Right, you don't channel people.
I don't channel people. I don't talk to dead people. But I can feel energies, and it's to the point where I'm so confident in my abilities to feel stuff, because there's feeling energies and there's creeping yourself out, and they feel very similar. Because the hair standing up on the back of your neck could be an actual energy in the room with you, and it could be you just psyching yourself out. But like I'm feeling it right now, and honestly, I couldn't tell you if it's just because I'm talking about it, it's making my neck go pins and needles, or if there's something in the area that is now coming towards us.
Well, it's interesting. Could I pause you for 1 second?
Yeah.
My Mr. Lincoln. When this website was being built, when everything was kind of being brought together within the last month and a half, two of my developers experienced phenomena while designing this website and communicating with me the stories that have happened over the years to kind of get the feel and the vibe for the storyboard and the website. A girl in New Jersey named Danielle Nielsen, who did the SOS intro on the website, had dreams of a black-clad figure. She thought it was her recently deceased grandfather, but when she started delving into the Mr. Lincoln story, and as I described it to her, that is what she's seen in her dreams. The girl who designed the entire website is from another country, a friend of mine. She had the exact same phenomena happen. She had weird computer glitches. People associated with the birth of the podcast have experienced this energy, this stuff, whatever it is. So if it's here now, I would not be surprised.
And that's the thing, is like it's all you really have to do is open your mind to it, and you will experience it.
Exactly.
And that's all it really takes. It's like flipping a switch, and once you turn it on, you can't really turn it off unless you just step away for a while,
like I did.
And during the course of my stand-up comedy career, I'm calling it a extended hiatus from comedy. I'll probably go back at some point, but I stepped away in 2012 because I was not only producing shows and running a comedy club, but I was also performing as a comic as well, and it was really stressful. And I swore to God I was going to die of a heart attack before I was 40 years old if I didn't step away. So
right.
I found something that I enjoy doing more, that's more lucrative, more relaxing, and that's what I do now. I have a produce company. I sell high-end produce to restaurants in Chicago, which is a lot better than dealing with a bunch of 22-year-old assholes all the time.
Understood.
In the course of doing that, I did shows at hundreds, if not thousands, of venues all over the Midwest and stuff, and I would run into it. There was a place, I forget what it was called. It was some ship-themed place up in like Rockford. It's called like Stern and
I remember this.
Something, yeah.
I remember this because Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
So I the moment that I walked into the place, I knew it was haunted. The moment I walked in, and this was several years. This was like 4 or 5 years removed from us doing stuff on a regular basis, and I walked into the place and immediately got the vibe. And I walked up to somebody that worked there, and I said, "Is this place haunted?" And they kind of looked at me and said, "Well, some people say it is." I'm like, all right, don't tell me anything else. And this is the first thing I said when somebody will confirm for me that yes, the place is haunted. The first thing I say is, okay, shut up. Don't say anything. Don't open your mouth. Don't tell me anything. Is it okay if I go and walk around unheated, like, for a while? Like, just walk around the building. And I'm like, yeah, sure, go do whatever you want. And I'll go walk around the entire place. I'll walk through every step, every square inch of the place, and basically just feel what I feel and experience what I experience, and I'll come back to them and be like, okay, in the basement, in that one corner, in the northwest corner of the building, I feel a strong spot there. In the hallway upstairs, on these stairs, blah, blah, blah. And every time they'll be like, yeah, that's where we hear stuff. That's where we feel stuff. That's where we see stuff. That's where so-and-so said they saw this and such. And it happens all the time.
Dave, I distinctly remember driving down a random street in Chicago with you at the wheel, and all of a sudden you would slam on the brakes and you would pull over like a maniac, and you would point to whether it was a home or a business, a restaurant, a bar, private residence, whatever it was, and you'd point and say, there. And we would get out, and you would go up to the door, and you would hand them a business card, and they would look at you like you had three heads. How did you know?
Yeah.
And you were right on every single time.
There was even a couple places I just happened to walk by that I got a vibe, like a really strong vibe from, and I just leave my card on the door or whatever, and
only to get a call.
A few days later, somebody would call me and be like, why did you leave your card on my door? I'm like, oh, because I felt that your place was haunted. They're like, well, it is. But
how did you know?
Yeah, like, and I'm just like, I just can feel the stuff, and they're like, okay, well, it's good to know. And I'm like, well, you want us to come by and check it out? They're like, no, that's fine. It's just
better not. I just want to
allay my curiosity.
And that's the thing. It's you're sensitive to that energy,
right?
And that's SOS's whole principle.
I think the best story was the one of I forget what the name of the business was, but it's changed hands a dozen times now. But it was like some hair salon or whatever, but it was in an old like brownstone right on Armitage. You know, like when you get on Armitage there, right where it kind of like ends at Clybourne and it kind of jumps around there by the Wendy's Italian ice place.
Yeah,
where there's a row of old like brownstone brick houses that have all been turned into businesses, and you know they're like hair salons and probably like a psychic shop and like like an insurance place and stuff like that. So this is one. I had an outside sales job like 99 through 2001. I had an outside sales job basically selling stuff door to door. And I walked into this place and got this really strong vibe coming from the stairs upstairs. And I asked the lady working there, and I'm like, is this place haunted? And she's like, I don't know, I just started working here a little while ago. I don't know. I haven't heard anything. I'm like, okay, well, here's my card. If you can just leave it with the owner, tell him that I got a vibe in here and I'd, like to talk to him sometime. So it was like a good month or two later. It wasn't like right away, but it was like the guy had my card sitting on his desk for a while, and he was like, I don't know if I want to call this guy. So he called me up and he's like, hey, you stopped by here a while ago and you said something about it being haunted. And I'm like, yeah, I definitely felt a really strong vibe in there. He's like, okay, well, I don't really tell anyone about this. I don't really talk about this a lot. But when we were starting the business, I was upstairs one day and I was on a ladder and I was painting the ceiling above the door. And this child came out of nowhere and ran past the ladder, like giggling and stuff, wearing like turn to the century clothes, ran around the corner. And I thought it was, I had the door open that day, so I thought somebody's kid just walked inside. I didn't know what the hell was going on. So I went and looked, and there was no one there. There was nothing there. It was just, and I thought I was going crazy. And I just, I had been up all night, working on getting the place ready and stuff. We had a deadline. So I didn't really think anything of it. I just kind of brushed it off. So, I need to get some sleep or I'm just going crazy or whatever. And then a few weeks later, I was sitting at my desk upstairs at the top of the stairs doing paperwork. And all I see is this old man's, like the top of this old man's head, like coming up the stairs. And when he starts telling me that, I'm like, oh my God, what is this story going to turn into? And he's like, and the old man said to me, he said, do you still have a ghost here? And I was taken aback, and I'm like, what? Like, how would you know that? And he's like, I used to live in this house when I was a little boy, and we had a ghost. I want to know if he was still here. And that was like one of the craziest stories I ever heard.
Just one of those random things that you said yes,
yeah,
and it turned into this amazing story.
And then there was another one with the peppermint stick in Long Grove,
Illinois. Yes,
which was another place I was in one day, and I don't even think I was there selling stuff. I was just there with my girlfriend at the time or whatever, getting ice cream. And I felt this very strong vibe coming from upstairs. And these are all like historic homes from,
correct,
the turn of the century or whatever. And so, I asked people at the Peppermint Stick, is this place haunted? And they're like, I don't know. I sell ice cream during the summer. Leave me alone. And, I didn't think anything more of it. And then months and months later, when I was doing my sales job, I met some girl. All I remember is she was Asian. I met an Asian girl, and she was working in some office or something. And I started talking to her about what we do. And she's like, oh, yeah, I used to work in a building in Long Grove in an insurance office, and we had weird stuff happen all the time. And I'm like, where was it? She's like, oh, it was upstairs of the Peppermint Stick.
Wow.
Yeah. So that was another good one. But stuff like that happened to me all the time, And when I was a kid growing up, like I would always have those things where you think of somebody and then you see them, or you think of something and then it happens. You think of a song, pops on the radio, think of a commercial, turn on the TV, there's that commercial. All that kind of stuff would happen to me. Like sometimes 7, 8, 9, 10 times a day. It was like past the point of any sort of like, oh, well, that's just a coincidence. And I very distinctly remember when I was a kid laying in my bed, like in the morning, like specifically on weekends, like when you didn't have anything to do and you're just kind of like, you're up, but you just want to go to sleep a little bit longer. And I remember staring at my door of my room. I was like up against the door. The door and my bed shared the same wall. So it was me like up against the wall looking towards the open door and seeing what looks like beveled air or static electricity just kind of like rushing out of my room in like a stream, like a wave. Like not a physical thing that you could see, but you can just kind of see the way. And I never knew if it was a trick of my eye or it was something I was actually seeing. But I remember that very distinctly when I was a kid, seeing that all the time. And now...
like almost like Donnie Darko?
Kinda. But like now in present day, I'll have occasionally, especially on like sunny days or whatever, like I'll get this this kind of like almost like you're looking under a microscope sort of thing. It's almost like if somebody's projecting a screen in front of you of what's under a microscope, like you can see everything behind it. But in front I'm seeing like what looks like little amoebas, single-celled organisms, or something like that.
Yeah, I'm freaking out right now.
Moving in.
I swear to God.
Moving in.
I know exactly what he's talking about.
And
I swear to God, I know.
And they're like moving in cross patterns, right? You see them like they're crossing each other in in a diamond pattern.
You have to focus, and you're just sitting there. You close your eyes, you come on it, you open them, and all of a sudden you see them just coming around. It almost looks like dust particles. You could see everything out.
Well, so what do you guys think that is?
It's like a floater in your eye, but they're moving in a they're moving
all over.
Like, but they're at a certain point. You start
crazy.
At a certain, but
I can't believe he's talking about this
at a certain point, though, they start to move. Like once you focus on them, they're moving in a geometric pattern where they're like.
It is so weird.
Like
so again, what do you?
I just had really good eyesight, and I'm sitting.
So obviously it's Dave Black, and that's Joe.
So weird.
That's Joe Erie confirming. The vision.
This is the thing.
What do you guys as the two mediums? Because I don't feel anything.
Well,
really.
this is
by Mr. Lincoln, but
the rational part of me says that is some trick of the eye and light that you're seeing. You're seeing.
It's so weird that he's talking about this because that's what I thought.
You're seeing the rods and cones in your eyes firing or whatever. There's got to be some sort of natural explanation for it.
It was dust
or you are seeing some sort of actual. Energy-based microorganism, interdimensional being, whatever it is, some sort of like because we
think it's almost seen in different like I don't know if it is a different dimension. Otherwise,
think of it this way:
just kind of just dust because everything else looks blurry.
Think of it this way:
you see the stuff in front.
It's like if you look in a droplet of pond water, you'll see. All these little microorganisms, and imagine if the air itself all around us has the same kind of organisms in it. Like, a microorganism that's in the water is going to be 99% water. It's very little physical, actual, carbon-based life form. But is it possible that there is a life form microorganism that lives in the air around us that doesn't have a physical form, that doesn't have an actual, like, it's not something you could actually tangibly hold and look at. It's just, it exists.
The way it looks, it almost looks alive, because it's kind of like it's like particles that are moving, but almost like a heat. You know,
and it's like they're moving.
And yes,
But then again, you think of a lot of science, like how crystals form and stuff like that, and how atoms move around and stuff, and they do. That's why you get perfectly square crystals in certain elements and stuff, is because of the way that the electrons move and stuff. So it could be something that's completely natural and explainable. And there's probably maybe somebody listening to this that's like, I know exactly what that is. It's this.
Yeah, let us know.
Yeah, it could be.
Submissions at SOS-Radio.com. Let us know.
Happened to me. I never thought anything of it. I just thought I thought I had better vision because I have 20/10. And I'm like, okay, maybe I could just see different depths.
I will 100% say that I am the Scully of this group. I'm always the skeptic. I'm always the rationalist. I'm always trying, any crazy thing that we experience, I'm always trying to find the rational explanation for it. As much as because I don't want to be the guy that jumps to, like, a certain guy that owned a certain bar, for instance, that wanted us to, like, blow every little stupid thing out of proportion. But it's just I don't want to be that guy that just, like, oh my god, like, you watch these ghost hunter shows and it's everything's like, do you hear that? Oh, dude, hey, there's a sound.
That right there is what separates us from everybody else doing this from the get-go. I mean, in the beginning, we didn't even use the word ghost.
I still will not use that word.
We kind of most of us kind of adopted it since, but we didn't even use the word ghost just because of the Hollywood-esque images it brought up in people's minds.
It's a placeholder for what
I will say this.
Came up with what?
I do not believe in ghosts in the traditional sense of an invisible person wandering the earth looking at something that they have to do or whatever. I will say that I believe there is a scientific, rational explanation out there somewhere that we probably have not come close to discovering yet, is a reason for why people think there are ghosts. Before
if science could find a reason for my Mr. Lincoln, please let me know.
Before white people documented panda bears and gorillas, they thought it was crazy local mythological creatures. So until the right people documented it,
you're right,
it wasn't considered a real thing.
Or just like you say, this is your own words from the past. Take a glass of pond water, to use your example from a few moments ago, from your theory in the past. Take a piece of a container of pond water, hold it up to the light. For all intents and purposes, what? It's clear. Put that pond water under a microscope, and it's teeming with life. Right?
Yeah.
Until we have the people to acknowledge it,
and the technology to study it.
Exactly. Spoken like a true scholar.
Exactly.
We've been watching that show, by the way. It's really good.
I've never actually watched that show, but I just know of that character.
Very 90s.
So was that left, or is that... Okay, so we got about... So the SOS-Radio.com podcast, typically about an hour long. We have about 18 minutes left. We have 2 more people to cover. So we will...
They're the least interesting, though, really.
I'm willing to admit that completely.
Dave has some really, really interesting theories that we will delve into because they need delving into within the future SOS-Radio.com podcast. But in the meantime, Dave, is it okay if we hand it over to Joe Erie in the meantime?
Yeah, I'm just going to interrupt him a lot, though.
But, folks, really, listeners, go to the website and look... under the diary page, and you could read some of Dave's own theories.
Did you say the diarrhea page?
Diary.
Oh, okay.
Page. Namely frequencies.
Can we just be clear right now?
Infinity.
We're not going to have a diarrhea page.
We're not going to have a diarrhea page. Absolutely. Look for
so much preparation.
2 theories on the diary page: infinity and frequencies, and that'll give you a really good high-level understanding of where Chicago's own Supernatural Occurrence Studies is coming from as an organization.
Do you always have to say Chicago's own? Can't you just say Chicago's Supernatural?
Or
what are we, WGN here?
Chicago's own.
It always annoyed me. It always annoyed me about WGN that they always had to say Chicago's very own.
I want to hear from Joe Erie, and I want to hear from Oscar Spector as well. Listeners, we did adopt pseudonyms for this organization. for many reasons. Some of the people we attracted.
Batshit crazy. There's a lot of batshit crazy.
Batshit crazy.
Some loonies.
Let's just put it very clearly. There are many batshit crazy people around the paranormal community.
World. Yes, and we learned very early on that using our own real names was a bad idea. So
I
do want to
completely unrelated to paranormal stuff. I talk about like gun rights or something on Facebook, and people show up at my house.
They literally did. So
a guy literally showed up at my house.
So I am going to toss it over to Mr. Joe Erie, the man who does not age. Joe, how did you... Well, you've been a member of Supernatural Occurrence Studies for a very long time, and a very close personal friend. He's my son's godfather.
I'll try to...
how did you come about
this? It seems like a terrible decision, him being
the greatest guy.
I'm Italian.
Absolutely. Come on.
Is that the only requirement?
I guess so now. I didn't know that.
Please.
All right. Well, first of all, since I could remember... I always experienced a lot of things. I didn't realize I was experiencing them. My dad would tell me stories as I would get older, like, yeah, when you were a kid, you'd be standing by the window, and I'd come up to you and be like, Joe, what are you doing? What are you doing over there? I'm like, watching Bill. And my dad would just turn white, and which I didn't know, Bill died like 3 days ago, and I mean just. Little stories like that, you know?
I remember seeing a picture of you and your sister. You must have been 10 or younger.
Yeah, I would
picture you and your sister with this crazy apparition in the picture with you guys.
Also, my parents or people would take photographs of me, just random places, and I would have weird forms around me. I didn't know what they were at the time. We collected them because we thought they were weird. They're like, whoa, it's a ghost, or, we didn't know what they were. So we just collected the stuff. I mean, just stories built up. I didn't think anything of it. To me, it just, you're growing up, you're learning, that's what it is. But when everything kind of came to light, I actually played a show at your house, at a house party.
He is a fantastic musician. Not kidding. He provided a lot of the musical bumpers, intros, outros that you'll hear on the podcast. Joe provided them. He's a very talented musician, so he did play a backyard show.
We played a little house party
day.
at Jay's house.
Yes.
He had to call the cops on. Long story.
Long story.
But
I think someone died that night, actually. I
hope not there.
I think someone died that night. Anyway.
All right, so.
The story another day.
Yeah. Okay, so, as we're kind of like packing up, he saw my bass case, and there was a little sticker on there that says, I love ghosts.
From Richard Crow.
Uh-huh. Because, one of my aunts is really into just ghosts and ghost stories. She gave it to me. I was so excited. So, anyway, I had it on my bass case, and, he's like, where'd you get that? And I'm like, and we explained about and talked about it, and he's like, do you know what I do? And I'm like, no. And he actually brought out his photo book. He showed me and explained it. Okay, we go to these locations, we photograph spirits, and I'm like, I'm looking, and I'm like, wow, that's weird. Those kind of look like the pictures that I have at home, and it just brought everything to light, and I just got really into it, and I'm like, started taking me out, and as soon as we started going out, I started getting these feelings, and I really didn't know what they were. Like Dave was saying before, it's almost like, you could hype yourself up, you can get scared. I didn't know anybody or anything like it. This is just, I just knew what I knew, and I got thrown into it. Dave was the first person I met like that, and I just kind of just quickly adapted, and I just went into it blind, and I just went with my gut feeling, and from there I just I would learn how to feel it, and it just my feelings would get stronger. I would learn how to I would learn the eventually what it turned into. I would know the difference of if I'm scared, nervous, hype myself up, or it's a ghost or a spirit or whatever it is. I knew that difference. And what really came to light was when we went to Robinson Woods, what bad was. There's good energy and there's bad energy.
Explain that. Explain the difference.
The good energy, it's scary, and to some people, if they felt it, they probably wouldn't want to feel it again. But bad energy, it's get out now, and it just feels just like death, hell. Get out now. You don't belong here. Like, leave immediately. Like, I'm getting goosebumps thinking about it. It's not a feeling that you want to feel. It's not a feeling. It's a feeling that wants to push you away from it and never do it again. And a lot of what Jay was saying before is you kind of push away from it because you don't want to feel it. And exactly. The more you're around certain things and the more you're into it, I think it picks up on it, and you kind of get haunted with it. It follows
zeroes in on you. So, Joe, you mentioned Robinson Woods and good versus
you know what?
bad energy.
I'd like to add an analogy here. You know when you get a new car and then you start seeing that car everywhere when you didn't notice those cars before?
Yes.
Yeah. That's what it's like.
Got it. Yeah, you're right.
That's good. I mean, ask you how because it's hard to picture what you guys are feeling.
Yeah.
Because I don't know, So
you don't feel very much, but we'll get to that.
Well, I have no soul. I did sell it.
Joe, you mentioned good versus bad energy and Robinson Woods, and I am thinking of a particular instance at Robinson Woods, and I want to see if we are on the same page with what happened for the bad.
Twice I've actually smelled things. It's very rare that I do. The first time I remember walking to my parents' house, nobody was there all day. Me and my mom walked in. It smelled like roses, just strong. And I'm like, Mom, why does it smell like roses? Oh, it smells like roses in here. And she said, she's like, no, it does. And she didn't want to say anything to me. And later on, she said that roses mean that there was a spirit in the room. And I'll never forget that scent. The second time I've ever, So
that was a good thing? I'm associating roses with positive?
Okay. The second time I've actually smelled something was Robinson Woods. We went in, we had an instant kind of, and you don't feel very like here and there, but that day you did.
I remember this. I remember this time.
It's an uncomfortable feeling. And then we smelled wild lilac. We all did.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden it was Katie freaked out. I'm like, I started taking pictures.
Kate Sparrow is my wife, he's referring to.
And we got the hell out of there.
Didn't you see that?
Go
ahead, explain it.
It was, it's been so long. It was either you or Katie, but it was Katie. Hold on. I think it was so long. I think it was behind you. I started snapping photos. We got freaked out. I remember I saw something and
coming away from me.
Yeah, it's just been so long that I just I forgot. But all I know is we got the hell out of there, and when we got those pictures developed, every single photo had something.
It did.
And
some of those photos are on the site. Yep. You're right. You knew it was around.
Mm-hmm. Another really weird thing is, I don't know if there's anyone out there that, experiences this. I don't really talk to too many people that experience anything. Dave's the only one I know. Besides my grandma, my grandpa have it. Some people in my family.
A lot believe it is hereditary.
Everyone I've ever met that can feel stuff in general, they're usually very left-brained people, usually very creative types, artists, musicians.
Why do you think that is?
I think there's just something about the wiring of the brain that's different. People like that,
more
open-minded.
Okay.
They're usually liberal. They're usually very, welcoming, open-minded, not racist, that sort of thing.
Okay.
Open to, other lifestyles. whatever.
Sure. Just open-minded in general.
Open-minded people that are not, that don't have any hard line. Like, I don't like this type of thing.
Almost like mental blocks.
And people that are not religious, non-religious, atheist, agnostic, deists that aren't deeply involved in religious belief.
So, listeners, if anyone out there is like Dave just described, please write the website submissions at sos-radio.com and let us know if you fit that profile and what experiences you've had.
And furthermore, if you are like that but maybe is still very religious and can still experience such a thing, that would be even kind of cooler to find out.
Yeah,
absolutely. Because I'm sure there's something for.
Yes,
I mean, I'm sure there's exceptions to every rule, but everyone I've ever met that's been able to feel stuff like me and Joe do, all have those things in common.
Also, Dave, what about the colored eyes? Do you think that plays a part?
I've never even really paid any attention to that because I don't go staring dreamily into people's eyes.
Well, I can't help.
Well, no, Joe. What Joe's talking, there is a theory.
Yeah.
Joe, correct?
Yeah, because they say that colored eyes, especially the blue eyes, are a mutation.
Yeah.
But
green eyes, there's always weird things associated with green eyes, too.
Yeah, I heard they're all about money.
I have green eyes, too. I don't feel especially greedy.
And I'm
Jewish, so
we're gonna get more into the background.
We'll get in depth
of Joe Erie and Dave Black as the podcasts progress in episodes. But I do want to hear from our producer extraordinaire, Mr. Oscar Spector, a longtime member of Supernatural Occurrence Studies, who also belongs to Everything's Opinionated podcast, and he also edits other podcasts as well. He's very well versed in the
time release radio, as I call it.
There you go, time release radio, Oscar.
It's like a grenade. You have to let go of the pen whenever you want to. Anyway, definitely, I'm the youngest of the group.
How old are you now?
But fool, you're still in your late, almost 30, right?
I'm 31. Okay,
you're in your 30s.
Let's all say our ages. I just turned 39.
Dave Black just turned 39. Jason Knight is 38.
Give it to you.
I had to think for a second. I'm drinking craft
Mr.
beer.
Joe?
So.
Joseph Erie, 33.
33? Oh, okay. See, we're not that far.
He doesn't age. Why doesn't he age? Get old.
Well, when I shave, I look probably his age, although he is our Rob Lowe of the group.
He is the Rob Lowe
he
of the group. Very attractive man.
I would say so.
Well, thank you.
You know what? It's funny because it's good that I'm last.
Chad Lowe,
it is good that I'm last and it's good that I'm the producer because I can do technical stuff here.
Nice cover. Good cover.
Yeah. However, in my podcast, I swear like a sailor on leave. Yeah. However, though, it's strange because I don't have what you guys have. I don't have what Joe and Dave has. And I'm not saying I want it. Clearly, sometimes,
you don't want it. You don't want
it. And
it.
I've had strange feelings for sure, especially when I was younger. I can describe very specific feelings, but they're not related to anything. And they are always when I'm alone or with one other person that I had with me. Possibly it was him who was a medium of some sorts because it was always with him sometimes.
Who's that?
My childhood friend, Julio, who is actually dead now.
I'm sorry, man.
Not anything weird related. It was just a car accident. And so I can't really ask him. But however, it did happen a lot with him.
But maybe we can.
Maybe.
We'll to be continued on that.
We'll go to the interstate highway area where he unfortunately died one day. However, so I don't have that great story for you guys. What I have is I have this insane, I have this weird curiosity about this type of subject matter, this supernatural stuff. And I'm not just saying because I grew up watching X-Files or anything like that, although that does help.
I honestly don't think at this point in our history that there's anyone that isn't interested in this sort of stuff.
Exactly.
You would think so. I've met more people against this.
Well, yeah, there's a lot of religious kind of people that are against hearing about it, but those people are against hearing about anything that doesn't agree with them.
I don't care who you are, what walk of life you're in, what profession you hold, how financially stable or unstable you are, you have a story. Mm-hmm. I don't care. You know somebody, or you yourself have had some sort of paranormal experience. That's what makes what we do so interesting. It is completely universal. Yeah. As Dave said a long time ago, every race, religion, creed, belief refers to ghosts, spirits, aliens, demons, the afterlife.
Except for that
the world
Scientology
over.
one.
Except for Scientology.
One of
the world over.
Scientology probably even has something like that.
That
Sure, maybe
means
they do.
something.
Level 45.
I've met doctors. I've met lawyers. I've met receptionists. I've met baristas who have had stories. I don't care who you are. That's what makes what we do so great.
Do you mean people that make coffee or British lawyers?
British lawyers.
Okay.
Yeah, two small quick things really quick. One of the most haunted houses that one of my friends stayed at, a bunch of nuns used to live there. And
always starts with nuns.
It does. Yeah. Nuns are always in these stories.
Well, talk about religion.
I wonder where it ends, actually.
I live right by a convent.
They moved in the house. Originally, nuns lived there. A lot of crazy stories we'll talk about later.
Excellent.
But one of the most haunted houses where they actually, the mom got attacked. They had to move because of it. And also my grandma's house, a priest lived there before my grandpa and her did. Very haunted. So I don't think that, that pushes anything away. It might enhance. I don't know.
Well, maybe that the people who had to flee because of the haunted house, maybe get them as guest on SOS-Radio
we
Podcast.
could, and he
Never hurts to ask, man.
Chicago's very own.
Chicago's very own. I would like to get back to
I knew you were
Oscar.
gonna say
We're over an hour, which is great because we had a lot to say.
No, it's okay. This is,
I do.
We can just edit out all the Oscar parts.
I just want Oscar
would
to.
love to. I don't like my own voice.
He doesn't. He doesn't. But I insisted because he is a part of this. So continue, please.
Right. So so what I do have for you guys, it's not just like I guess I'm Mexican, I'm Hispanic, and I have a lot of folk tales that I was raised on. This type of storytelling that you tell orally only, nothing written, no books, nothing like that. It's just stuff that you're told from past generations. Some of it pretty recent, most of it 50 years ago or more, and from small towns and cities in Mexico, or even crossing here when this was like Mexico land or Indian land. So I do have a lot of that.
Isn't every sighting in Mexico the Virgin Mary? They see that lady everywhere.
No, it's better. Every third sighting is the Virgin Mary. Two others are always more interesting. So I don't, like I said, I don't have like a great historical personal attachment.
You know what would be ironic is if somebody saw the Virgin Mary appear in their bathtub. Bathtub Virgin Marys? Anyone?
Yep, I got it.
Getting back to Oscar.
Great.
Oscar, you're going to finish.
You're great at the hosting.
You're good. Thank you.
I like it.
Thank you.
You're doing very well, by the way.
I appreciate that. That means a lot.
Yeah. So I have that, and what I'm here to provide besides technical assistance, producing, editing, and all that jazz. My background is mainly in filmmaking, creatively. Don't have any crazy thing, although I do get the eye thing. I really thought it was dust in my eye. I don't know. I get that.
So that is
sometimes.
3 people.
I mean,
we've never discussed
everyone. There's got to be. There's got to be something.
Get it off.
Yeah, anybody, listener, please, if you have anything about these floaties,
rods and cones,
especially geometric floaties, please let us know.
Right, and it does feel like it moves like that.
SOS-Radio.
Straight lines, geometric. It does feel that way. Yeah.
Because when I do spot it, I tend to kind of like stop whatever I'm doing and just observe it for a while and see if I could. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, but guys, my main reason I'm here, and not just because I'm the youngest, although Joe, you're really close to me. It's for selfish reasons. I'm here to kind of discover these things with you guys. I'm not saying I'm looking for proof. Or I'm looking
it's good. It's good to have a layman like.
I need to,
because people that are listening to this can kind of put themselves in your shoes,
and I will hopefully bring that perspective for them.
It's a lot like you're like a character in a movie that you could like everyone can relate to.
That's
I'm that guy.
Because not just to provide exposition either, but something better.
That's great because I'm convinced. I know what I see. I know what I experience. I know how it's affected me.
I'll put it this
Joe
way:
knows. Dave, Oscar, you're right that he is the layman, the everyday.
And that is neat. Like
Edward Norton and Red Dragon.
My business now is based largely in foraging. I forage for wild foods, wild mushrooms and stuff, and sell them to fancy restaurants. And that's what I do. And it's just a knowledge I've built up over the years of being really into nature. A few years ago, a producer came to me and said, we want to film a pilot about you and what you do.
I remember.
And I'm like, yeah, let's do it. And they're like, do you have somebody you can bring with to be kind of like the question asker and every day, and I'm like, I don't know if we really need that, but I brought my friend Michael Sanchez, who's a comedian, for the shoot, and it worked out. It it added a whole other level and depth to it because I was explaining stuff and then he was there to make a funny comment or to ask a question or to basically
challenge.
And it wasn't even scripted or anything. It was literally just so you could have somebody there. It's like when you watch a murder mystery show and there's always the one new dumb guy that's like, what do you mean by that? And they have to explain, oh, well, a fingerprint is a thing that a person leaves on something.
Are you saying Oscar's our dumb guy?
No, but it's somebody that you can...
Wait, fingerprints are real?
It's somebody, the perfect example was with completely off script, you asked him what an attachment was earlier.
Right, I was asking for the audience. I knew what it was, but yes.
But that's a perfect example of you're the guy that's the audience member that's
There's actually a few more terms I wanted to ask about. That's okay. We'll get to them eventually.
Oscar, how did you meet up with SOS?
What was it? 1990? No, 2001 or 2000, something like that. We used to work together. I was a host for a restaurant that's not closed. I can say it, Gino's East Pizzeria. And you were the bartender there.
I was a bartender.
And I was 16, 15, 17 maybe at most when I met up with you. I don't know how I got you. That memory is fuzzy. My teens, I don't remember, and all the good for it. I do remember somehow eventually getting to one of your meetings with your members of SOS at the Phoenix restaurant. And we would have there every Sunday, I think, and we would just sit there and discuss, not only promotional stuff, business stuff, but also, what we're going to talk about, what we're going to show, the next tour, all that jazz. And you guys got me involved in that way. I don't know how I got there. I don't know why you got me with you. What did
I like
What did I say?
I just like you.
I'm curious.
You're a good man.
My memory is very hazy.
You've always been a good man.
I think I'm a good liar.
It really does.
I'm kidding.
I mean, all of that, it seems like a lifetime ago,
That's what I'm saying.
Because, I mean, since then, you've had 2 kids. I've gone through, 3 career changes.
I've had 3 illegitimate kids.
Joe went from being, punk-ass kid to, responsible adult
uber
and father.
Successful at what he does.
And we've all... And
Oscar is still, he's... Oscar.
He's Oscar, but you know what? And that's the thing, and that's why I think we had, just to bring this to a close. That's why I think we have the right, the credibility to produce this podcast.
Yeah,
because we have been in it for so long. We have literally been there, done that. We have thousands of hours. You guys realize we have thousands of hours worth of field research and study under our belts.
Yeah.
This is our natural progression.
I don't have thousands, but I have been there for you guys for a little
bit. You have been there since 2000 or 2001. I mean, 15 years, 14 years.
Doesn't feel a day over a week.
This seems to be the natural progression for us. We're back, in other words. Our hiatus is over. We're recharged. We're re-energized. And I really think this could go far. I think it could help me with my attachment. And I think we have a lot to lend to the paranormal community. There are no experts in this field. Everyone has to understand that. Anyone who claims they're an expert in the paranormal field is full of shit.
Already dead, because that's the only way you
already
can be an
dead.
expert, right?
That's right. There are no experts in this field. It's impossible. Science has not recognized this field.
You can be experienced in this field, but you can't be an expert in this
field. We
field.
are uber experienced, and we're here to bring our knowledge, our experience, our stories to the world. This podcast isn't only about Chicago. Yes, we are Chicago's own.
And you know what I'm going to say?
Supernatural Occurrence Studies. But
here it comes.
I want this to be opened up to the world. We're not only going to be covered ghosts or trace energy, a term we coined on this podcast or within this podcast. This is open to extraterrestrials. This is open to conspiracies, cryptozoology from around the world. Our first podcasts are going to be about Chicago because that's what we know. Chicago,
all from a rational, sane, balanced viewpoint.
Right. Although sure conspiracy will get into the realm
the crazy,
but we have always taken, as Dave is trying to say, we have always taken that if almost skeptical approach to our own field.
Right.
We try to disprove ourselves before we prove ourselves.
Remember the picture we got out of it was some random cemetery I took a bunch of pictures in, and we saw the 2 glowing red eyes in the photograph, and we were showing it to everyone and freaking out about it, and then I realized what it was. What was it? It was tail lights of a car on the road behind the cemetery.
Right. Which is why, that's the exact reason why, if you go to the photos and video section of SOS-Radio.com, you will not see an orb. you will not see the typical photos that you see on other paranormal websites. We don't even
something
count
very
those.
different.
Yeah, because even if
count things like
even
that.
if an orb is something of supernatural origin, it's a very common, normal, everyday photographic error that you can go out in your yard when it's raining and get 1,000 orbs in your picture. It's all it is. It's light refracting
and
off of raindrops
to make a constellation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, in closing, I just want to reiterate again, you can contact us at any time at submissions@sos-radio.com. That's submissions with an S. Or you can call us, Chicago area code 872-529-0SOS. That's 872-529-0767. And I just want to give
all of this will be in the detailed show notes for every podcast.
Will we be able to do call-ins? Like if we can give
yes.
voicemails?
Yeah. Well, no,
Yeah.
I mean
No,
actual
live call-ins.
actual people
Yes.
call in.
We're going to open that up. We're going to figure that out.
Okay.
We have it right now through Google Voice. You just have to call the number 872-529-0767 0SOS.
Yep.
And we can patch you in. Anyone have any closing thoughts?
I just wanted to say that we're not purporting to solve anything or get down to the bottom of it or figure it out, or like we're not going to be groundbreaking or revolutionary. We're not going to be the ones that figure it all out.
We're not there to like eradicate some sort of evil force out there. We're not hunters. I hate that word.
Yeah, we're not hunters.
We're not Ghostbusters.
We're not Ghostbusters. We don't have like silly little gadgets and things. We're simply doing this from the perspective of a bunch of people that are like, hey, we're interested in this. Let's go find out what we can find out.
Figure it out.
And the thing is that anyone that wants to know if this stuff is real can go out and find out for themselves.
Get out from behind your monitors. Get out from behind your smartphones. Get out in the field and do your own research.
And
take your own photos.
That's
take your own
what it's
video,
all about.
Do your own research.
And it's not even about being able to prove it to anyone else, because you'll never will be able to prove it to anyone else. You could show them all the pictures and audio and video in the world, and in the back of their minds they're always going to be like, how the hell do I know that you didn't just make that up? Or how do I know you just...
Especially in the world of digital photography.
And the only way to really prove it to yourself is to prove it to yourself. And once you prove it to yourself, it gives you a completely different perspective on life. Because for me, for my whole life, I toggled between atheist, agnostic. Should I stick with my Jewish upbringing, and all these things. And when I was around 12 years old, I started being like, I don't know. It all seems kind of like Easter Bunny, Tooth Fairy sort of stuff to me. And so I always identified myself as an atheist. But then when I got into this, it made me realize that. A lot of people are like, oh, well, if you don't believe in God or if you don't believe in religion, how can you believe in this stuff? And I'm like, it's not about believing in it. It's about knowing it's there because I can experience it and see it. I can't experience or see God or Jesus or Judaism or Christianity or Islam or whatever. I can't tangibly find those things in reality. But what I can find is I can go out in the woods and feel a weird thing and get a picture of a weird thing that goes along with the feeling of the weird thing. That's and right. Being like, wow, that's messed up. I don't know what the hell that is, so how could I ever hope to know anything else about this life or where I'm from or what it's all about? I'm very comfortable at this point in my life at 39 years old saying the only thing I know for absolute certain is I don't know anything at all. And that's okay.
Yeah, I feel the same way about Dave. I pushed away from religion, and I didn't believe in anything for a while. And once everything kind of came to light, and I understood, wow, I'm feeling things. I'm getting pictures of things. There is something out there. That's right. But what is it?
So it's two people experiencing the same thing and getting completely opposite reactions.
And that's okay.
He moved closer to religion because of it, and it confirmed my non-belief.
I'm not saying push me towards religion. It's just, something is out there.
Something is out there. And
something's better than nothing.
You know what? This is a great first episode. We need to bring it to a close. I just want to give a quick shout out to Mr. Joe Erie for providing some of the transition sounds.
All the music, really.
Right.
Transition sounds like, ooh.
No, they're really good.
Wouldn't it be a
You will hear. You will hear. Not that one. And I also want to give a shout out to No Standards Band, who gave us that excellent rendition of Message in a Bottle, a song that's always been close to our heart for the SOS mention. And WePix Media, WePixMedia.com for providing the website and storyboard animation, and Danielle Nielsen for doing the SOS intro for us. As always, kind listeners, keep your head up, eyes open, and question everything.
You want to save your soul from hell, riding on our range. Cowboy, change your ways today. Oh, with us you will ride at the devil's herd.